Hi readers, it's Lori. Welcome back to my channel, Books, Ink, and Paper. I have no books in my hand today. Well, I have a book in my lap, but we'll talk about that in a minute. But I'm here to talk about rhythm. Now, you probably are wondering why am I bringing forward a video about rhythm? But it has to do with what I have been thinking about this year as I am reading and what my rhythm is and what it's been and maybe what I would like it to be. I guess the rhythm of books, in order for us to really kind of center around what I mean by this, we do have to really look at actual rhythm, right? Like I have been raised in a family that were pianists, they were music lovers, they sang in church choirs and in other places. They were really focused on music as being a big part of our lives. And so music was the rhythm by which we enjoyed life, by which we created relationship with each other and with ourselves. I was taught piano and I was taught a number of other things over time, and I wish that I had kept those skills up. And that's been something I've thought about for 2 years now, like I lost my piano in a hurricane, and so now, what do I want to do as a result? But also, what is true about rhythm is that it is sort of a practice, if you will. That definition of it really does focus on what is most important to you in your day. For example, the rhythm of my day is very specific. Usually, I start off by pushing the button that says brew now on my coffee because I prepped it the night before. That's my rhythm in terms of coffee, right? I begin morning pages that I've learned from Julia Cameron and have continued to do since 2008, I think. It was not long before my granddaughter was born. I have a rhythm of what I eat and when I eat it, of drinking water, of, reading my Kindle. And this goes to the reading place. I read my Kindle almost every day at noon for my lunch hour. I also read my Kindle sometimes at night. I listen to audiobooks in the morning while I put my makeup on. You get the piece of this. This is my rhythm. Beyond that, though, what I've noticed about my reading life this year is that the rhythm of whether or not I stay with a book is a little bit different. So, for example, I used to be very picky about DNFing, especially for advanced readers copies. I thought, oh, I just have to read this completely in order to be able to say I can give it this rating. I also thought if somebody recommended a book to me, I really needed to diligently read it and make sure that I finished it. And I just have never been one that didn't finish a lot of books. I would just slog through them, even if they were really difficult for me. And now my thoughts are that it's really better to DNF than anything else, right? I am better off, at least temporarily, DNFing a book rather than pushing myself to finish something that I'm not enjoying or for which this isn't the season of my rhythm in this particular book or maybe in this particular genre. Which also brings me to how many times I have said in the last couple of years, I don't read fantasy. I don't really read fantasy. If I were to look, and I'm not going to because I just know this would be true. If I were to look at my Goodreads list of the fantasy novels that I've read in the last few years, there would be a number of them. I realized this when I was filming Most Anticipated Reads, and I was talking about a book that was comped to The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue. Fantasy, right? I have over time read a lot of fantasy. When I was younger, I read much more of it. I have read it in my adult life too, for certain I have. And what I think is that my mindset has been a specific kind of fantasy that probably doesn't work for me, or I'm remembering books that I started and they weren't my books. So I didn't continue to really pick those up intentionally. But when I think about it, there are a number of authors who have written fantasy that I have read this last few years, for example. I recently read Other Birds by Sarah Addison Allen. Most of Sarah Addison Allen's books have a level of fantasy to them. I've read Life After Life and loved it. Absolutely one of my favorite novels in my whole life, right? I need to stop saying I don't read fantasy because I do. And I have enjoyed it before, and I will continue to enjoy it now and again in this lifetime. And I think because my rhythm was particularly historical fiction for a long time, now it seems to be leaning more into mystery thriller, but it really varies, and I need to accept that. And I need to recognize that my rhythm will shift and change and accept that for my rhythm. It is what I'm looking for at the moment. Sometimes in my life, I have read much more nonfiction than I do now. I got some books out of the little free library yesterday, and one of them was a book about a politician. I'll be sharing it in my haul. Probably it's very used, but I wanted to read it. It's a book that I wanted to add to sort of a collection of books that I have, both on Kindle and hardback, about politicians, both Republicans and Democrats, so it doesn't really matter to me. I'm fascinated with that work. I'm fascinated with some of those people and what their life stories were. But I don't read as much nonfiction as I used to. That doesn't mean I don't read nonfiction, right? I have chosen to do that. Classics. One of the rhythms I think that I'm noticing for the new year is that I want to read more classics, which is one of the reasons why I've chosen my 100 books bucket list to start looking at for you to pick my nonfiction reads, because it gives me an open space to read more classics. It gives me the motivation to do it as well. And the rhythm doesn't always come easily, right? Like when you're playing an instrument or when you're in a morning routine like mine, that rhythm some days just doesn't come as easily as it does other days. It's just the way it is. I have occasionally forgotten to prep my coffee the night before, so all I have to do is press that brew now button. But I absolutely have a rhythm of, for the most part, of doing the same things at the same time every day to ensure that I get the things that are most important to me done, right? Same is true for the books. We get into a rhythm and we decide to prioritize the things that are most important to us in that moment. What I'm noticing this last year is I am not the only person who has discovered that I have DNF'd more books. I can't tell you how many friends of mine that are bookish and how many content creators I follow on YouTube, BookTube, are talking about the DNFing. I watched Becca at Becca's Books and Bujo the other day talk about the books that she was picking on her spinner wheel. And she talked about how each one, she started it and she wasn't going to finish it, started it, wasn't going to finish it. Some were YA. And she said, I'm just not really into YA like I used to be. I have said that before too. I don't really read YA. But I yesterday got out of that rhythm and featured a YA novel that I might really enjoy. Right? Not Today, Satan comes out in November. I just was enamored by that title and by the synopsis of that book. So my rhythm could be that I choose something different all the time. And I think what I need to do is stop saying no to my internal and my rhythm of my thoughts and my rhythm of my beliefs about myself. I need to open myself up a little bit more to what is a right rhythm. I guess that's my buzz phrase for the day, my right rhythm. It's always a challenge when you're on BookTube to be relevant, right? People are talking about that a lot lately too. And do you read only books that are relevant because you want more subscribers? Do you read only books that are relevant because it makes you feel like you can talk about them more easily? I have been really considering that too. Like when I make my reading goals, am I striving for something that I really want, which is typically true? Or am I striving for something that I think I might want, which was true this past year when I thought that I would enjoy reading a chapter of Les Miserables each day. And I decided that was not for me. And I created that rhythm. It's almost like deciding that I'm going to play a flute without knowing much about playing a flute, right? I did not know, I mean, I knew about Les Miserables, but I didn't know a lot about his writing style. And so for that reason, I realized that that was probably not going to be one that I'm going to read now. Will I have a different rhythm when I'm 72 and I'm retired and I'm not worried about, how many books I read anymore, which I'm not really worried about it now. But I am kind of in a rhythm of reading 4 to 6 books a month. That rhythm seems good for me most of the time until I get into a slump. And there's lots of reasons why I get into a slump. These are kind of the things that booktubers are frustrated most about. Reading slumps, DNFing and having to DNF, books that aren't what they were proposed to be in the synopses, right? Books that they just really don't like and they felt like they needed to read it because everybody had hyped it so much. I had this moment this morning where I was listening to Sue Jackson talk about reading The Housemaid by Frida McFadden, and there's this whole arc of people who love, hate, and maybe are somewhere in that chain, right, of Frida McFadden. I've read some Frida McFadden before. They're okay. They're not, going to blow me away. And she was talking about how the same thing is true. She wasn't sure how she was going to feel about it. And then she talked about in her last video, if you want to look at it, she talked about what she rated it and why. And it was, I was listening to that thinking, yeah, there's a lot of people that are in a Frida McFadden rhythm. I'm not that person. I think when we realize that we're pushing ourselves to do something and it's not in our rhythm, it feels like it's not something we want to do. And then we start closing our mindset around it and thinking, I'm just not the person that likes that. I'm just not the person that will finish Outlander. Well, I might be the person that I finished the Outlander series. I might not. I don't know, right? I just think I need to release this and play in a symphony with other people without feeling like I have to take their seat. Without feeling that I have to play their instrument or play it as well as them or play an instrument that I really don't ever want to play or do anything with. For the most part, I read things that are something that I really want to read, that I'm excited about. All the stuff that I add onto Goodreads and to Storygraph are books that I'm excited about. I will say that I don't push myself to read things I don't want to read, clearly. I mean, clearly, this year for sure, that's very, very true, even with advanced reader copies. But I do notice that there are times I push myself internally as high performance Lori, or as get this book read because you're really excited about it, Lori, or read this book because somebody said you really need to read it, Lori. And that Lori is sometimes at odds with the other personalities that I have inside of me. I took a coaching program once called Voice Dialogue for Coaching. I have to tell you, that was one of the best things I ever did in my life. I'm trying to convince the woman who created it and delivered it to do it again. And I think I have her convinced. But I loved voice dialogue because what it does is and I still use it for my clients when they want it. It's their choice. What it does is it opens up the voices inside of you that tell you different stories about yourself, or they tell you different things about what you should or shouldn't do. So for example, there's a little Lori still inside of me. There's a type A, gotta get it all done Lori inside of me. Get it all cleaned, make it all perfect, make it all wonderful. I think that's the I want to be like my mom Lori, probably. I don't name all of them, but then there's a lazy Lori that just wants to have fun, and not do anything. Coaches over the years have really helped me to unpack some of those voices too, because when you have a dialogue with those inner voices, and I'm not suggesting that any of us are schizophrenic by any stretch, when you have an inner dialogue with those voices, you're able to understand your rhythm. Why is this happening right now? It's happening because little Lori is stomping her little feet and saying, I want that. I want it now. And I used to be kind of like that, especially with my sisters. And then there's, the other Lori who feels like she has to be perfect and get everything done and get it done right and on time. And if it's not done, she's a bad person. This applies a lot to books as well. There's a bookish Lori inside of me. Maybe it's librarian Lori. I don't know. The Lori that never got to be a librarian is trying to challenge me, I guess, to read all the relevant things, read all the good stuff, read all the books, just read all the time. Whole Lori knows that that's just not always possible. And if I did it now, I would be poor Lori, right? I would be unfulfilled Lori because I love my clients and I love coaching them and I love being with them. I have 3 of them today, back to back. And while that is sometimes tiring, I have a little bit of a break in between. Most days are usually more than that, but Fridays, I'm kind of like ready to right out the door, go do some fun things, welcome in the weekend. So agreeable Lori or no, accountable Lori is going to show up for those meetings, right? But there are some times where I say no to people, and that's the say no to people Lori that doesn't always show up. We know ourselves and we know our rhythm and we know what we want and we know that sometimes that changes and we accept it and we do what we know and want and and are interested in and we do it, right? We just process all of this. So in the coming year, there will probably be new decisions for me. There will maybe be a new rhythm. I think it's possible that that new rhythm may be accepting fantasy. It may be accepting big books because I just don't want to be intimidated by big books anymore. I want to do more content that is fun and original and that benefits people, that content that you want and the content that I want to put out there. Like it's a two-way street, right? I want to be with more people. I want to be in interacting with more booktubers. I'm not sure how to do that, but I know some people that do it very, very well. So I'm sure that they can help me figure that out because I love learning from other booktubers and I love acknowledging that learning when I'm talking about them because they're incredible. Like I said, they're just some incredible people in my life that including all of you, that I could not be doing this work without. I would not still be doing this if you all weren't so incredible. I'm also noticing that this book stands out to me lately. So I am sharing a book. This is by Anne D. LeClaire. She wrote novels as well as nonfiction. This one is nonfiction, Listening Below the Noise, The Transformative Power of Silence. I have had this book for a while. I've read about half of it, I think, if I can remember correctly, but maybe I finished it. So before I had Goodreads, I had Listening Below the Noise. And she talks about silence, days of silence, for example, right? Like many monks and Buddhists do, and many people who just like to have a day of silence do. I used to spend more time in silence than I do now. I used to spend more time unplugged than I do now. And also, that's a big part of being a content creator and being a coach and being a delivery leader and a lot of the things I do. I said to my partner the other day, I had a migraine, and I said I would really love it if I didn't have to use a laptop in a job every day. It would be so much fun just to not have to be on a screen all day, every day. And she said, I don't think there's a job left in the world where that wouldn't happen. So, Listening Below the Noise, Andy LeClaire. I do think it's time for some silence. I do think it's time for just some self-caring like this. I don't have to read it in a hurry. I don't even have to finish it. I don't even have to say to you when I'm going to finish it. That's a lot of pressure we put on ourselves too, I'm aware of. The rhythm of that is sometimes challenging, right? For me to take a day, it usually means I'm sick. And I should be able to take a week off and not produce content, right? Not, and I know you all feel that way because you say that to me all the time. But I think that it's time for me to really take some stock around what is happening. For 7.5 years, I continued my rule of not speaking on the first and third Mondays of every month. Sometimes I would float on the surface, resting and restoring. Other days, I allowed myself to go deeper, retreating into the depths and discovering more facets of myself and more lessons of silence. The only constant was that I never missed a day. That, my friends, is a rhythm, right? That's a rhythm. And I like that. I like that idea of where is my rhythm? And listening below the noise will help me figure that out because that's how this happened too. I just started thinking to myself about what I want, what I do, what I don't want to do, what's the good time for this, what's a good time for that, right? Like, that's what I want to think about. Maybe you do too. Maybe you stopped listening to this way long ago, and that's also fine. But I just wanted to share this with you today because I felt like it is an important topic for a lot of us as booktubers and a lot of us as readers and a lot of us as followers of booktubers, Patreon members of booktubers, book club participants, right? You see where I'm going with this? Yeah. What's your rhythm? Let me know in the comments below. And if you don't want to post something in the comments below about your rhythm, you can share some sort of a musical instrument because I'll know that you were here then. And really, music is a big way for me to calm down and to be present and to get centered and to feel into my own rhythm. It really, really is. I listen to music almost every single day. Thanks for watching today. I appreciate all of you, and I can't wait to hear what you think about this video, good or bad, right or wrong. It is what I felt compelled to say today. So I hope you like it too. And stay in your own rhythm and happy reading. Bye.